Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into something pretty huge, a claim from some fascinating sources that essentially says immortality is here.
Yeah, it's a bold statement.
It really is. And look, before you start picturing, I don't know, ancient pharaohs coming back or sci-fi robots taking over, let's unpack what this actually means.
Right. It's not about literal undeath in the old sense.
Exactly. Our mission here is to explore how the very definition of life and death is being rewritten, not in myths, but, well, in modern science.
And what's really revolutionary, I think, is the paradigm shift. For basically all of history, death was just inevitable, a fixed endpoint. 60 years and 10, if you got lucky.
That was the deal.
But these sources argue aging itself isn't just getting old. It's now understood more like a condition, something treatable.
Condition, like a disease.
Kind of. A process with symptoms, causes, and potentially cures. And that's why this moment, right now, is different from any other time. It's the science, the tech, all converging.
Okay, so that's the claim. Now is different. Why? What specifically changed to make this moment the turning point? Let's trace that path a bit.
Good idea.
If you look back historically, Paleolithic era, life expectancy was maybe 20, 30 years.
Yeah, but mainly because so many children died young. If you made it past childhood.
You might hit 50 or 60, sure, but still. Then the agricultural revolution, Middle Ages, the average life expectancy just stayed stubbornly low, around 30, 40.
Even the Romans, with all their aqueducts and relative wealth.
Right, Emperor Augustus, public health systems. But even the rich rarely saw past 60. It was just a constant fight for survival.
Absolutely. And connecting that to the bigger picture, the really seismic shifts started with the Industrial Revolution. That's when things really took off.
How so?
We got sanitation systems, clean water finally becoming more common, and crucially, vaccines. Think Edward Jenner, smallpox.
Game changer.
Huge. Then Pasteur and Koch showing diseases weren't bad air, they were germs, bacteria, viruses.
So understanding the cause.
Exactly. And between, say, 1850 and 1950, life expectancy in many developed countries basically doubled. Went from maybe 40 to over 70.
Wow. Double in a century.
It's incredible. And it meant, really for the first time, people were living long enough for aging itself to become the main problem. Before, you died young from infection or accidents. Now, something else was a limiting factor.
So we sort of solved the early death only to run into the aging problem.
Pretty much. The 20th century, the medical century kept it going. Penicillin, DNA discovery, IVF, amazing stuff. But aging, that remained a kind of black box until, well, the later part of the century, and that's where geroscience comes in.
Okay, let's unpack that. If aging isn't this fixed thing, but something we might treat, then how do we even measure age anymore? Because you go to a high school reunion, right? Everyone's the same chronological age, born the same year, but...
But they look and feel totally different. Some seem youthful, others not so.
Exactly. Why is that?
Well, that's the key question, isn't it? It's because your chronological age, just the number of candles on your cake, it actually tells you surprisingly little about how old your body really is, physiologically.
Okay.
The much more important measure now, the one scientists focused on, is your biological age.
Biological age.
Think of it like mileage on a car, not just the model year. It reflects the real wear and tear.
From what? Lifestyle, genetics.
All of it. Lifestyle, genes, environment, diet, stress, it all adds up. But here's the revolutionary part. Our sources really hammer home. Biological age isn't fixed. It's modifiable.
Modifiable, meaning you can change it.
Yes. You can potentially slow it down, stop it, maybe even reverse it. And the first step is being able to measure it accurately. If you can measure it, you can manage it.
Okay, that is a game changer. So how? How do we measure this mileage? Put a number on it.
So the gold standard these days is something called the epigenetic clock. This was pioneered by Dr. Steve Horvath back in 2013.
Epigenetic. What does that mean exactly?
Epigenetics. It's about changes on top of your DNA. Think of tiny chemical tags, methylation patterns. They act like dimmer switches for your genes. They turn genes on or off without changing the underlying DNA sequence itself.
Ah, okay. Like instructions.
Exactly. And Horvath's clock looks at hundreds of these methylation sites across your genome and can predict your biological age with really startling accuracy, often within just a few years.
Wow.
And what's really powerful is that this epigenetic age, it actually changes based on what you do. Lifestyle changes can move the needle. It can even be reversed, technically. And it predicts health outcomes, even your risk of dying. better than just knowing your birthday.
So it's a more real measure of your health span.
Precisely. You can even get tested now. There are direct-to-consumer kits you send in saliva or blood. Costs around maybe $300.
Huh. Interesting. Are there other ways too?
Yeah, people also look at telomere length. Those are the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes. They tend to shorten each time a cell divides, so shorter telomeres generally indicate older cells. Another piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so we can measure biological age with things like epigenetic clocks. That's huge. But the next obvious question is, can we change it? Can we actually intervene?
And that leads us straight into the field of geroscience.
Neuroscience. Right.
Most of us, think of medicine as fighting specific diseases. Like you fight cancer over here, heart disease over there, like separate battles.
Yeah, different specialists, different treatments.
But geroscience flips that. It kind of says, wait, are we missing the forest for the trees here?
How so?
Geroscience views all these age-related diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, arthritis, many cancers, not as totally separate problems, but as different symptoms of one underlying issue.
Itches.
Aging itself, the biological process of aging. So the goal isn't just to treat the heart disease, it's to treat the aging that makes you susceptible to heart disease in the first place.
Treat the root cause.
Exactly, treat the root cause. And this idea got a massive boost back in 1993. Cynthia Kenyon at UCSF. She did this landmark experiment with tiny roundworms, C. elegans. Yeah, simple organism, but she found that mutating just one single gene could double their lifespan.
Double it, just one gene.
Double it. That was huge. It showed aging wasn't just random wear and tear. It was at least partly genetically programmed. And if it's programmed, maybe it can be reprogrammed.
Okay, that changes everything.
It really does. It shifts medicine from just being reactive, waiting for things to break, towards being prevented and even regenerative. And this line of thinking led scientists to identify what they call the 12 hallmarks of aging.
The hallmarks of aging. Sounds important.
It's basically a framework, a list of the key biological processes that go wrong as we age in pretty much all our tissues. Things like genomic instability, meaning DNA damage accumulates, telomere attrition, those protective caps getting shorter.
We mentioned those.
Right. Then there's cellular senescence. These are often called zombie cells.
Zombie cells, why?
Because they stop dividing, which is sometimes good, but they refuse to die.
Yeah.
They just sit there spewing out inflammatory signals that damage nearby healthy tissue. And chronic inflammation itself, sometimes called inflammaging, is another hallmark. And the crucial point is, these hallmarks aren't just descriptions of aging. They are potential targets for treatments.
So we can measure biological age. We understand these hallmarks, these processes.
Yeah.
Where does that take us? I mean, you hear these sci-fi sounding terms.
Like longevity escape velocity.
Exactly. Longevity escape velocity, LEV. It sounds like something out of, well, science fiction. What does that actually mean? Is it realistic?
It does sound futuristic, but the core idea is actually pretty simple, conceptually at least.
Okay.
The idea is, if you live long enough, science might advance fast enough to keep extending your life even further.
Explain that.
Okay, imagine you're 60 today. Maybe current medicine gives you a decent shot, say 25%, of living to 95.
Right.
But maybe by the time you actually reach 80, science has developed new therapies. And these therapies don't just keep you alive, they actually reverse some aspects of your biological aging. They make you biologically younger.
Okay, they roll back the clock.
Exactly. Now, if science keeps advancing fast enough specifically, if it starts adding more than 1 year of healthy life expectancy for every chronological year that passes.
Ah, I see. You're gaining more time than you're spending.
Precisely. Your odds of dying from aging-related causes keep dropping, potentially, indefinitely. You haven't technically achieved immortality, but you've sort of outrun aging, indefinitely postponed death from aging.
That's a mind-bending concept, indefinitely postponing death. What breakthroughs are actually making scientists talk about this seriously now?
Well, it's not just one thing, it's the convergence. Several key technologies are stacking up and accelerating.
Like what?
Like epigenetic reprogramming. Remember those dimmer switches? Scientists have actually reversed biological age in mice using factors that reset those epigenetic marks. Human trials are starting, carefully, for specific applications.
Reversing age in mice.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Senolytics.
Yeah.
These are drugs specifically designed to find and destroy those zombie senescent cells we talked about.
Getting rid of the troublemakers.
Exactly. And early human trials are showing some really promising results for improving age-related conditions. Then there's the massive impact of AI in drug discovery.
Artificial intelligence, how does that help?
It can analyze vast amounts of biological data, predict how molecules will interact, identify potential drug candidates
Yeah.
way faster than humans ever could. It's drastically speeding up the process of finding new therapies, cutting down timelines from years to months sometimes.
So faster development of new tools.
Much faster. And again, these aren't isolated things. They're stackable. Maybe epigenetic reprogramming adds 10 healthy years, senolytics add 5, a new AI-discovered drug adds another 10. They compound, and every extra year you gain buys you time to benefit from the next breakthrough.
It's like compound interest for your lifespan.
That's a great way to put it. It's a virtuous cycle, potentially leading towards that escape velocity.
Okay, wow. This has been a deep dive indeed, from ancient history to AI reprogramming cells. It's incredible stuff. But let's bring it back to our listeners. For you listening right now, what does all this mean today? How can you actually use these ideas?
Yeah, that's the crucial question, isn't it? What can you do now? And the sources we looked at actually offer some pretty clear, actionable steps. Think of it like building your personal longevity portfolio.
Okay, what's step 1?
First, get a baseline. Seriously, consider getting that epigenetic age test we mentioned. Companies like True Diagnostic, Elysium, knowing your biological starting point is powerful. It's not just a number, remember, it's a score you can influence.
Know your score. Got it. Then what?
Second, track and optimize your health habits meticulously. This means prioritizing sleep quality, focusing on a nutrient-dense, low-inflammation diet, maybe exploring things like intermittent fasting if it suits you, and consistent, varied exercise. These things demonstrably impact biological age.
The fundamentals still matter. A lot.
Absolutely. Third, actively cut out the bad stuff, the inflammaging triggers. Smoking is obvious, but also ultra-processed foods, chronic lack of sleep, unmanaged stress.
Yeah.
These accelerate aging at the cellular level.
Minimize the damage. Makes sense.
Fourth, explore supplements, but carefully. Talk to your doctor, of course. But things like NAD plus precursors, NMN or NR, which help with cellular energy and repair, resveratrol, maybe metformin, if it's appropriate for you. These show promise in targeting some of those aging hallmarks. Do your research.
Right. Be informed. Be careful.
And finally, maybe most importantly, stay curious. Keep learning. Keep experimenting responsibly with what works for your body. Keep tweaking your approach. Longevity isn't about finding one magic bullet. It's a marathon. It's a continuous process.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. And being able to measure biological age really is a turning point. It gives you that dynamic score you can actively work on.
What an incredible journey we've taken today, really exploring how this ancient dream of extended life, maybe even immortality, is shifting. It's less about living forever in some static way, and much more about fundamentally redefining what's possible with the years we do have. Extending health, vitality, using science to give us tools our ancestors couldn't even imagine.
And to connect that back to the big picture, perhaps the most profound takeaway is this. You, listening right now, you are alive at potentially the most pivotal moment in human history regarding lifespan.
The hinge of history.
You could genuinely be part of the last generation to die young by historical standards, or just maybe part of the very first generation to have the option of living healthily, well, indefinitely.
Wow, that's definitely something powerful to think about.
It really is. A lot to chew on.